A very good evening to everybody here. Respected parents who have come here, Honorable Member of Parliament, Sri Sujit Ji, AKM, Tapendra, Smriti, members of the leadership team at TATWA, and invited guests. I'm really honored to be here as we celebrate the 22nd Foundation Day of TATWA. 22 years is a long time, and I was doing some little bit of research in terms of how many companies actually start and survive for 22 years. Here is some data for you. 40% of companies which start fail within the first 3 years. They close down within the first 3 years. 50% of them fail within 5 years. 66% of them will fail within 10 years. 73% of them within 15 years, and nearly 80% of them within 20 years. The very fact that you are celebrating the 22nd Foundation Day shows that you are in the elite 20% of the companies in the world. It is also abundantly clear that you have come a long way. We have grown from a startup of 3 people to a thriving community of passionate professionals. But as we reflect on our accomplishments in the past, it is extremely important to remind ourselves that our work is far from complete. As part of TATWA 2.0, which you will hear more about later, we have very ambitious goals to meet, and in a world which is dramatically changing. That is why as we celebrate this milestone, we must also look to the future. And we must continue to invest in our teams, in our leaders, and in our infrastructure. We must embrace innovation, and we must adapt to new technologies. And more importantly, we must remain committed to our vision statement that we have written for ourselves, which is to be one of the most distinguished players in the areas of information technology and IT-enabled services. That commitment to vision is an extremely important part. So to the leadership team of the TATWA, I want to say this. Congratulations on your first 22 years and the best wishes for the next 25. I want to briefly touch upon 3 topics today. One is actually the importance of institution building in our country. Second, I want to talk about what does it take to build a great company. And third is, what should TATWA do from tomorrow morning differently? I think building institutions in a country is a mammoth task. And if you look at countries which have invested in building these institutions, those countries have thrived socially, economically, and culturally. And the vice versa is also true. Those countries which have the troubled countries of the world are the people who did not build solid institutions. Now, what do we mean by institutional building? Institution building is a process I refer to as the creation, development, and strengthening of formal and informal organizations, systems, and structures, guide the behavior of individuals within the organizations and within society. And this includes companies, government agencies, not-for-profit organizations, educational institutions, think tanks, and the like. Now, why is institution building important? I think first and foremost, strong institutions are effective for the functioning of society. For example, a well-functioning government is necessary for enforcing laws, protecting citizens' rights, and the like. Second, institution building is also important for promoting equity and fairness in our society. Third, institution building is essential for promoting long-term sustainability. And last but not the least, institutions are important because they, like AKM said yesterday, they live beyond the people who created that institution. And that's the reason why it's extremely important. Now, it is obvious that institution building is crucial for society, and all of you should be very proud that you are in the process of building an institution. I'm using the word in the process because it takes a very long time to build an institution. Second, I want to talk about what does it take to build a great company. There's a common misconception in the world even in India, that companies are all about glitzy glass buildings and digital infrastructure and stuff like that. But most smart people now have realized that physical infrastructure is only a very small part of what the company is all about. As you go about thinking about TATWA 2.0, here is a framework I want you to think about in terms of building the organization. First is physical infrastructure. We all understand that very well. Second is a digital infrastructure. Today you can't imagine building a company without a digital infrastructure at the back, which includes not just technology which connects, which includes systems and processes and stuff like that. The third and the fourth are the most important. The third is the intellectual infrastructure, the brain power of the organization. That is the third part. And the fourth part is the emotional infrastructure. And I'll briefly talk about the third and fourth alone. When we talk about intellectual infrastructure, which is the most difficult to build, because if you throw money, you can build physical infrastructure and build digital infrastructure. But throwing money alone, you cannot build an intellectual infrastructure, which includes the brain power in the organization, the tools, the methods, the process, some of which we've been talking about yesterday and today, the trademarks, the patents. These are something unique to us. And as is obvious, building intellectual infrastructure is much more time-consuming and much more difficult. But this is the only long-term sustainable differentiator that you will have. Everything else can be easily replicated. This is an investment that ensures that you have differentiation as well as uniqueness as an organization. Let me talk a little bit about the emotional infrastructure. Now, this is probably least understood. Emotional infrastructure is what engenders a healthy emotional climate within the organization. And it's a little different from culture. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. There is a perceptible, you say, right? When you go to a company, you feel that something different about it. And yesterday we were talking about that. That is what emotional infrastructure is all about. This is the most difficult to build and most difficult to sustain as well. Building emotional infrastructure requires more than financial investment. It requires deep thinking. Now, emotional infrastructure is different from culture. An organization with zero emotional infrastructure can also have a culture, right? But culture is about how we do things around here, whereas an emotional infrastructure explains why we do what we do. That is what emotional infrastructure is all about. Emotional infrastructure is also different from emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a personal trait. Now, as you plan for the next 25 years, I want you to think about building the organization on the third and the fourth layer. First and second, you're already there, right? The third and fourth layer is what you have to strengthen on and build on. Now, coming to very briefly, based on the last 2 days of conversations I've been having with you, I'm going to give a very prescriptive stuff in terms of what you should focus on. What TATWA should do differently from tomorrow morning. Now, the good news is this. You already have many foundational elements in place, right? That's the best part. Your foundation is there. The question is, what is the dream of the building that you want to build on top, right? Your vision statement is there. Your mission statement is there. Your clear values are articulated. There are many things probably we've been talking about in terms of what we should do, but I'll prioritize 4 things for you. One is to live the values. At the cost of losing a bet, I'll take a bet that if you pick up any TN today and ask the person what is the values of the company or what is the mission statement of the company, it's very likely that they will not know it. So I think we have to get into a mode that mission, vision, and values are not just for PowerPoint slides and websites, but we live and breathe those values. So what does it take for us to build these values? How do we inculcate this in new people who join us? How do we ensure that the Guwahati Center has the same value system as the Noida Center? This is the big challenge you'll have to work on because this builds a very cohesive set of people within the organization. Second is talent. You have a fantastic set of people based on whom I've interfaced with yesterday, but I think you need to build a lot more diversity of talent within the organization. At a leadership level and at all levels. Start with leadership level. I think it has been proven through research that having a diversity in talent gives a different kind of energy to the organization itself. So diversity is important. Second, actually, you'll have to think about how to, beyond the founders, how do you ensure the next level of leaders are taking responsibility for growth? They have to take responsibility. Your job is to support them to be able to ensure that they get that. Are the leaders with the right capabilities in the right roles? And yesterday, madam, we are talking about right roles and right people. I think it's a good point to look at, saying, are the people who are in the right roles, do they have the right kind of capabilities? How do you attract and retain talent? Talent war is going to become worse, not just in India, in every part of the world. So the challenge is, how do you attract people and how do you retain people? It's an ongoing challenge. I'm sure HR teams everywhere already know about this. How do you live and breathe your value of having a healthy and happy workforce? I love that value of saying I want to have a healthy and happy workforce. And both are extremely important, because I believe that if you have a healthy person and a happy person, he or she will give the best to the organization. But how do we live that value on a day-to-day basis? So these are the couple of points related to talent. The third I want to talk about is on governance. The governance is beyond having a set of board of directors or board of advisors. I think I'm looking beyond that. Governance is like plumbing in a building, right? As you build the building, you have to put plumbing. You can't say, I'll build the building and baad mein plumbing lagaunga. It doesn't work like that, right? So it's important to start thinking about, especially when you want to get yourself listed in any one of the exchanges, what kind of governance you want to put in place across all levels. It is about how the company goes about doing business on a day-to-day basis, which is ingrained in every single person in the company. What is our stand on integrity in the workplace, for example? What is our view on integrity? What is our view on personal integrity? If some news comes about TATWA, some bad news comes about TATWA, God forbid, in the newspaper today, will we be embarrassed? Or will we say, we stand by what we did because that is the right thing to do? These topics again require deep introspection and discussion, but the resulting actions will drive your behavior for the next couple of years. Last but not the least, yesterday I was talking about organizations grow as astronomical orbits, right? I think we should seriously talk about goals, accountability, and transparency. How do we set annual goals? We'll start doing that immediately for the next financial year. Which are ambitious but still achievable, right? They're stretch goals but achievable. Who's taking accountability for those goals? Are we being transparent with the organization and say, I'm going to take this responsibility, and every quarter I'll come in front of you and tell you how have I done, right? So taking accountability, defining stretch ambitious goals, and being transparent with the organization is part of growing up. Are we getting the right advice for our strategy? I know Kaushik is helping, but are we getting the right strategy? I think it's an extremely important thing, because as the world is changing, no one person knows all the answers. Can we get some of our brightest minds together to be able to help us to define that strategy? So these are the 4 points I wanted to talk about. The first thing is living the values, second is talent, third is governance, and fourth is goals, accountability, and transparency. These are some of the top of the mind things that I believe that TATWA should focus on. And we all agree that we live in very disruptive times. But every time there is a disruption happening, there is an opportunity. That's also very clear. The ones who grab the opportunities will see phenomenal growth. TATWA has an opportunity in front. It's very visible to us. We have a foundation. And I am sure with the commitment, focus, hard work, and ambition, we are ready to embark on a new journey called TATWA 2.0. Once again, I want to congratulate the founders and all the TATWA team for completing 22 glorious years, and my best wishes for the fabulous next 25 years. Thank you, and God bless.